Welcome back. It is season 4 of Lower Decks. We are back with the ups and downs, and I am delighted to see you all again. How have you been? It's been a shocking long time since the end of Strange New Worlds, hasn't it? Hasn't it? Back to normal. Chris is locked in his cage, and we will throw him the odd steak every now and again. But no more than that. Maybe some water. We are going to go through all of the ups and downs for episode 1 of season 4 of Star Trek Lower Decks. I will get into the title of it now in a second. But also make sure as well that you keep watching this channel, because you probably are already aware that it's not just one episode, but it was 2 that dropped. Yes, it was a 2-episode season opener because they wanted to spoil us. And that's definitely the only reason why. We will be doing a separate video for that, so that's going to have its own ups and downs. That will be along a little bit later. And when I say a little bit later, I mean... we'll get it to you as quick as we can. With that in mind, let's get going on all of the ups and downs for Twovix. First up that we're going to go with this is just the fact that season 4 is back. Okay, with all of the uncertainty of what's going on with Star Trek at the moment, with all of everything that's happening in Hollywood, we have a new season of Star Trek. I am a very, very happy squidge. That's why that is definitely my up to begin with. And folks, it's called Twovix. How is this not getting an up? And it's 2, like the number 2 it's a sequel. You get it? You get it? It's a... Sean, they probably got it. We are finally dealing with the most divisive topic of all Voyager fandom, which was, what was the better decision? Bringing back Tuvok and Neelix, or should we have allowed Twovix to live? To say that they deal with that question in this episode is quite hilarious. Also, I want to give a quick up as well, because I don't want to miss the fact that in the beginning of the episode, before we know what's going on, we have the secretive classified mission where both Mariner and Freeman are like, oh god, I hope it's not something to do with the neutral zone. Oh, spy stuff is so annoying. Up. While I do like spy stuff, people ragging on the neutral zone just makes me happy. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. We get to this space station, and what we discover is... there's another little ship sitting there, but we'll come to that in Cetacean Observations. Folks, stick around for Cetacean Observations, because... I mean, I wore my wrist out getting Cetacean Observations ready. I wrote a lot. We get, however, most importantly, this amazing, beautiful realization of the Intrepid class USS Voyager. Of course that's getting an up. Are you kidding me? I love this ship. I always have, and I love Voyager. I mean, like, if you've seen this episode, which I presume you have if you're watching this ups and downs, this is a love letter to all 7 series of the show. And also, we do get references to both Endgame and Picard Season 3. Now, again, stick around for Cetacean Observations. I will get back to that one. As we head into the opening credits for this season, yeah, you're like, Sean, you haven't even got to the main bulk of the episode yet. You're right, because there's still stuff to discuss. Don't think I didn't miss my little koala in the opening crawl, but in these credits, that Borg battle that's just been getting bigger and bigger season by season, take an up, because the flipping cetacean whale probe has now turned up at this battle. And that would be interesting. Would that be powerful enough to knock out the Borg, which are like, you know, all of the mechanics? Wait, what? These are the big questions we need to know the answer to. I don't know, something about Twovix as well, I guess, but like, this is what we need to know. As we go into the episode overall, we get the Voyager theme tune. Of course that's getting an up. Like, just of course that's getting an up. But the attention to detail that they spent on putting this ship together for Lower Deck, it just feels special. And also, after last season, we got Deep Space Nine, which again looks absolutely beautiful in this type of animation. Not me already thinking, season 5, well, I can't wait for our trip to the NX-01, can you? We then move aboard Voyager itself, and there's an awful lot going on at this part of the episode. You have Boimler has been effectively told by Ransom that he's up for promotion as long as he doesn't screw up in some sort of historically significant way. Enter one of the most important ships in the fleet. Oh, they don't like to make it easy for Brad, do they? You also have, remember T'Lyn? Took a full bloody season, but yes, she is very much a part of the Cerritos crew. Now, she might have provisional rank, but it's lovely to see her working alongside Tendi so well. You've got Mariner, Boimler, and Rutherford are over on Voyager with Kayshawn and Ransom, so that's a whole lot of fun. Not to say that we didn't remember our lovely Rigelian curator. So you're setting the scene for everyone, and I mean, the episode's called Twovix. You kind of know where this is going, don't you? Billups is there. He has the transporter room all booted up and ready to go. And again, transporter room, it's just looking gorgeous. And it's all ready to go. And there goes T'Ana just walking by. He says, hey, do you want to lift over in the transporter? She goes, yeah, sure as hell. Beats taking a shuttle. They hop in together with a flower petal. I mean, really. So, of course, the big question of it all is, what do we do with the new life form that they call T'Illups? Well, what we do is we warp Voyager out of there as quickly as possible, which is actually what they do. You've got Boimler and Mariner remain on board Voyager with a newly discovered macro virus that has been hiding out in the bulkheads of Voyager's bridge. Like, as I say, this is a love letter to all of Voyager. It's like, how many different references can we cram into one episode? Well, I'll try and count them all. This macro virus ends up basically ruining Boimler's day because not only does it emerge, it then duplicates and continues to propagate throughout the ship. Boimler doesn't stop it from getting off the bridge. Ransom is getting a bit annoyed and it looks like that promotion is a little bit in question at this point. But of course, Boimler's not looking as upset about losing the promotion as you would expect. Back on the Cerritos, you've got T'Illups is sitting there in sickbay, who's able to diagnose the fact that he feels fine, and also is able to upgrade one of the tricorders as well, because he's got all the best parts of Dr. T'Ana and Chief Engineer Billups. It's actually a pretty good mix, you know, as long as you don't mind the fact that the two of them have been Twovix. I love the fact that they've used Twovix as a verb throughout the whole episode. Oh, he's been Twovixed. Twovix them too! Because we've been doing that since this episode came out. Well, the first episode came out. It's hilarious! And again, sorry, can we just pay respect to the fact of taking up the fact that they talk about how... So how did Janeway fix this? Oh, she straight up murdered Twovix. Oh yeah, no, he begged for his life. And Shaq's just like, holy shit, Janeway did not mess around. Up! Because wherever you come down on the side of the Twovix argument, it's true, Janeway did not mess around. On the Voyager, we've got the macro viruses still floating around, and as long as it doesn't go anywhere near some Borg nanoprobes, we should be fine. Later that day, the macrocosm ran into a Borg nanite, which had been left behind in the Borg alcoves in Cargo Bay 2, taken up. I mean, it's just gorgeous, but also weirdly in a lower decks kind of way. Yeah, this kind of makes sense. That is exactly what would happen. And then the macro virus increases the size of the nanite, so it becomes roughly the size of an iPad. And then it runs around effectively assimilating the ship, which is a massive security oversight on Starfleet's point that they didn't pick up on that now to think about it. Because like even one nanite could basically restart the collective. Although, hang on, this is 2382. Does anyone really... What stage is the collective at this point? So, like, it's post-Endgame, so chaos has been brought to order, but then we also know that barely a year later, there's a Borg cube dormant out in the Delta Quadrant that the Protostar is going to run into. Then, of course, you've got all of that stuff going on over with Borgatti, and then you've got the stuff in Jupiter. That's 20 years after this. The Borg timeline hurts my head, folks. At one point, I suppose I'm skipping ahead slightly, but the fact that it does say that they were able to contact, I think it's Borg Cube 857789, and then that's, so that means they were able to find a Borg Cube, and listen, everyone's screwed. The Borg are still out there. I mean, like, you know, it might look like Star Trek Picard Season 3 actually took care of them. Nah, they'll be back. But wait, you see, Season 5 of Discovery, it's gonna be like 32nd century Borg. Oh God. If they were saying 29th century Borg in the episode Drone was going to be tough. With the Borg nanite starting to take over the ship, it starts to seek for allies. And what it does is folks, there's a memorial to the lizard babies they left behind in Threshold taken up. I mean, like, you know, we talk about Janeway straight up murdering Twovix. Can we just appreciate the fact that Chakotay abandoned Janeway and Paris' children on a planet? I mean, yeah, okay, so the Borg nanite takes over these mechanical lizard babies as well. So naturally they become new drones, and you see one just kind of crawling by, and it's just absolutely hilarious. There's holograms taking over as well. We get holographic representations of Chaotica. We get Michael Sullivan from the Fairhaven program. And also we get the clown, the embodiment of fear, who was never actually in Voyager's systems. It's quite fun actually, because at one point Boimler actually shouts at it. I was like, wait a minute, the clown was never actually one of Voyager's holograms. And effectively the answer is, shh, don't worry about it. Now, it is so much fun seeing them back again. We don't dwell too much on the character. I mean, what am I talking about? Chaotica, Clown, and Michael Sullivan. You're all getting ups. Of course you are. Of course you are. Don't be silly. As Boimler shouts at one point, these are void deep cuts. Just hilarious. And they do effectively manage to overpower everyone except Boimler on board Voyager. Meanwhile, back on the Cerritos, T'Illips, well, is smart enough to then go and, you know, scan the Federation database as to what Janeway did with Twovix, and realizes, yeah, I ain't going out like that punk Twovix. And what he does as well is seek out allies. Next thing you know, Miglimoo and Freeman are Friglimoo, the doctor captain of the ship, who gives a direct order to bring more senior staff. It's just like, folks, this is such an opening of a season of Lower Decks. The chaos that's going on around is just wonderful. And yet you manage to take all of these Voyager deep cuts as well and still make it work as an episode. I don't know. I mean, like, put it this way. If you really don't like Voyager and you don't like silliness, this episode is not for you. Sticking with the Cerritos for a few minutes, Tendi and T'Lyn are the ones who effectively end up dealing with the Twovix crewmen. And it's really clever how they managed to address the issue of what Janeway had to do with Twovix without actually answering the ethical question of what would you do today armed with the same knowledge. So in the beginning of the episode, what you have is you have T'Illips, and Freeman has to find a way to free T'Ana and Billups, but also possibly keep this new life form as well. And as Freeman and Shax both say, they're not stranded in the Delta Quadrant. They have all of the resources of Starfleet at their disposal. Now, through miscommunication, unfortunately, T'Illips jumps the gun a little bit and begins this crew of Twovix crewmen. Then T'Lyn manages to make a bit of a whoopsie. She uses the EMH's idea of dealing with this to try and fix the problem, but in fact what she does is she takes all of the Twovix crew members and molds them into one giant Twovix amorphous blob, and beams that into the holding cells. You've got T'Lyn and Tendi are now looking at them going, you know, oh God, what are we going to do? They figure out with that tricorder that T'Illips was able to upgrade, they would be able to identify the different personality traits that have now gone into this new creature. Sorry, I have to just shout out, one of the components of this creature is Swale Swalens, who is Matt the Whale and Steve Stevens merged together. Just taken up. Just taken up for that one. It might not be T'Illips' best work, but I laughed so hard. They then find a way to undo everything, and T'Lyn turns to Tendi and says, how do you feel about the ethics of this situation, knowing that you will be separating all of these life forms? And Tendi says, oh yeah, that would have been a problem with T'Illips, but now that it's a non-sentient amorphous blob, I've no problem at all. Everything is great, and we all move on, and we don't have to deal with the question 20 years later. Well done, Lower Decks. I'm going to give you an up for that one now as well. That was pretty nicely handled. Back aboard Voyager, Boimler first of all, tries to free Mariner, and he is a little bit still down in the dumps, and she's like, hang on, like, you know, it's just a ship. What are you feeling this way for? And he goes, because Ransom said I might be getting promoted, and I don't want it to be like what happened when I went to the Titan. Because when he went to the Titan, it really did put a rift between his and Mariner's friendship for quite a while. And we downed at the time some of the exchanges between the two of them because it felt like kind of season 1 Mariner, but the way they bring it back here feels organic and feels natural. It feels like, well, something realistic. Friends fight. It happens. And Mariner is able to say, this is nothing like that time. Also, she drops in that she encouraged Ransom to offer him the promotion. I don't take from that, you know, all roads lead to Mariner, that if she hadn't said anything, he wouldn't have got the promotion. I don't get it that way. What I get from that is that she is as secure in their friendship now that would never be an issue. And in typical Star Trek fashion, we're having this conversation while macroviruses are flying around the ship and the Borg have been alerted, and you've got Ransom, Rutherford and Kayshawn have all been just stuck to the wall in the astrometrics lab, and they're being watched over by Michael Sullivan. Folks, Michael Sullivan, while wiping down the counters in astrometrics, goes, I miss my wife. That's an up. Because, I mean, what I'm sorry. That's my Latinum up of this week. I miss my wife. Oh my God. Boimler is able to free Rutherford, and despite Ransom's protestation saying, free me, he's like, sorry, don't have time, need an engineer. And he picks the right person, because they're crawling through the Jeffries tubes, and Boimler says to Rutherford, what are we gonna do? We need to find a way to effectively break this ship. And Rutherford goes, hold on, I've got an idea. To break the ship with cheese. It's so stupid, and I love it, because this is what happened. Season 1 of Voyager, learning curve, they effectively poison the ship with cheese. This is what happens when you have bioneural circuitry. Absolutely flipping hilarious. I love it. I absolutely love what they've done. So yeah, they do. And you've got Rutherford there with a cork gun full of cheese, and they go to the bridge, and then Boimler walks in, and you see the little lizard baby is sitting Captain Janeway's seat, sitting quite Captain Janeway-esque, taken up. Chaoticus spots Boimler. Boimler is like, oh, well, actually, you don't know everything. I'm the son of Captain Proton. The whole thing, and then the ship breaks, and then, which leads me to a down. I know, we were doing so well. I have a down, and that is Voyager's computer is not Majel Barrett's voice. Now, bear with me, I am aware, of course, Majel Barrett has not been with us since 2008, but likewise, in the way that Picard Season 3 managed to use archival audio to have Majel Barrett speak again as the voice of the Enterprise D, massive spoiler if you haven't seen Picard Season 3 yet, but again, presume you have if you're watching this channel. The computer says, you know, we're moving out of warp, the computer is broken. You telling me there wasn't one recording of Majel Barrett saying that? That was a down for me. But it works, and, you know, the Rigelian curator is delighted that they're able to stop Voyager falling into the hands of the Borg, but he's then frustrated that he has to go and add another exhibit to the museum. We get that gorgeous shot then of Voyager landed in San Francisco, and in the mess hall, you see the cheese in a display case beside a picture of Rutherford and Boimler, which means Rutherford and Boimler were on the Voyager Museum above 8th and Prime, taken up. That's it then. We get to the Cerritos again, and we start getting promotions. Tendi, Boimler, we have T'Lyn and Mariner all get promoted to Lieutenant Junior grade. You know, you might be thinking, Rutherford? But Rutherford does make the good point of, like, engineers don't get promoted for breaking things. So we'll have to see how that goes this season. It is sweet. You then see Mariner is very much protesting with Ransom going, don't promote me, because remember the last time Mariner was promoted and her life was a living hell. But Ransom this time around is a bit like, no, you've just not had a commanding officer who's been there for you before. I will be there. I will help support you. And we get our lovely typical Mariner Ransom face-off, with Ransom finishing the conversation by doing pull-ups. It's just like, and we're nearly there, but then we cut to the Klingon bird of prey, the one that we met in Voyager, which is still one of my favorite episodes. We cut to some chats of the Klingons that we met in that episode, I should say, And, you know, there's, you know, sparring and there's swords, and then we get a the red alarm goes off. Red alarm? Am I a pack lead or am I what? Red alert goes off. They go up to the bridge and they discover an unknown vessel. And the captain says there's no honor in destroying a crippled starship. I like that. That's very Klingon. I mean, like, we've seen Klingons shoot space garbage before, Star Trek V: The Final Frontier, but he's right, like, what's the point? Doesn't do them any favors, though, because that ship then comes to life, fires a beam, and destroys the bird of prey, thus leaving us with some stakes for this season. Taken up. Also, take it down. I liked those Klingons. That is that bit of our episode done, but would you like to take a trip with me to Cetacean Observations? Buckle in, my friends. There's a few. We have our koala in the beginning again. We have the Romulan neutral zone, which is mentioned by both Freeman and Mariner. We have Towel Guy going for a walk through the corridors of Cerritos. T'Lin's provisional rank insignia, which we first saw in Star Trek Voyager. There's an Akira-class ship docked at that station as well. The Rigelian Curator. And of course, you've got Voyager. You've got the Voyager theme tune. You've got the whale probe in the opening. The episode is called Twovix. Oh, it's just so good. Voyager's engineering, which is absolutely beautiful. There's a Benzite working in there. We have the Voyager era comm badges, which are at the head of all of the museum stands, the ropes there. Janeway, of course, getting a shout out. Cargo Bay 2 appears. 7 of 9 mannequin, and her eyepiece falls off. Oh my god. The mess hall, as it should look on Voyager, and as it shouldn't look on any other Intrepid class ship. Yes, I am talking about Inter Arma Enum Silent Legis. We have Neelix's mannequin is being placed there in front of some bowls of Delta Quadrant food. We then get onto the bridge, which is arguably the most beautiful bridge of them all. Yes, I will take your comments for that one. Janeway's mannequin, with a bun, I might add, is left sitting in the captain's chair. Harry Kim's mission-worn uniform. Oh my god, that's an up. As a cosplayer, the fact that it's mission worn, yeah, that's valuable. That's valuable. Now, we get the mention of the fact that she's gonna go to Earth before going to orbit. And that actually says, in Endgame, Admiral Janeway says Voyager is a museum. And she alludes that it's parked in San Francisco, right? But then we know, by the time we get to Ethan Prime in Star Trek Picard Season 3, Voyager's parked there. So it's like it's counting both of those. Really nicely done. Bioneural gel packs, we have the reference to Neelix's cheese. Now, that was when he tried to make macaroni and cheese for Ensign Ashmore in Learning Curve, the last episode of Season 1. We go to Sickbay, where there's a Tuvok mannequin standing there, and we have what looks like a giant neural stimulator, which looks quite fun. Tuvix's orchid, so the symbiogenic orchid, that of course makes an appearance, kinda needs to. We get to the transporter, I'm looking gorgeous. Ta'ana saying beats taking a transporter. Taken up for that one, because that is like the exact opposite of Dr. McCoy in the motion picture. You remember Disco McCoy with the beard and the medallion? And he's like, I'd rather take a shuttle than have my ashes scrambled all over everywhere. Really, really love that. Reminder that Billups, of course, is from the Ren Fair, which is great because he had a pet dragon named Fiddlesticks as a child. Just absolutely love it. All of the Tuvixed people, except Captain Freedlymoo, come out with Tuvix pattern uniforms, which I just think is hilarious. Send us Janeway's logs of what happened. Voyager going to warp, absolutely beautiful. Taken up for that one. The amount of references to Janeway straight up murdered Tuvix, taken up for that one as well. Mariner references the era as Voy, which of course is the abbreviation that we use as well. The Paris mannequin is standing there on the bridge. Tactacian macrovirus. Oh my god, I'm loving these deep cuts. Temba, his arms wide. We have Shaka, when the walls fell. I pay attention. Red alert, we have Chakotay being name dropped. Then of course there's the Pike thing that they aren't supposed to mention. And if you haven't seen that, go and watch that already. Taken up. Being Tuvixed. Taken up. Dancing Neelix. So when they're looking at, you've got Tuvix in the middle and you've got the silhouette of Tuvok and the silhouette of Neelix. Neelix is kind of like dancing there, and if that doesn't sum up Neelix's character, just perfect. Lizard babies. Take another up. Chaotica, Clown, Michael Sullivan. I've already upped them all, so they're fantastic. Hollow emitters all over the ship that the Rigelian added. Now actually, this of course calls back to episodes like Persistence of Vision, where the Voyager crew tried to do that to help the Doctor leave sickbay. This is before the mobile emitter. Didn't Didn't really work back then. The Hirogen had a slightly better time doing that at the Killing game, but the Voyager crew ended up stripping a load of those hollow emitters because, one, they didn't need them with the Doctor anymore, and two, they were taking up an awful lot of resources. The reference to the fact that the clown wasn't a holodeck program. Love it. Harry's clarinet. Up. Twovix begged Janeway to live. Up. This episode is dark. Borg nanite and Borg graphics are shown in this episode with the assimilated lizard baby. The Astrometrics lab is looking absolutely beautiful. Chaotica's ray gun. There's references to what happened on the Titan and Starbase 80. Of course, I miss my wife. There's the Voyager Jeffries tubes. The shout out to the EMH as to how he was able to fix the Twovix situation. We're in the Voyager turbo lift, the son of Captain Proton, which is said with the mannequin of Paris standing just behind Boimler, taken up for that one. Voyager as a museum. We have our lovely Kazinti standing there during the promotion scene. Then over on the Bird of Prey, there's the Klingon spear, the Klingon towel guy walking around, Klingon targeting system that we saw in things like Final Frontier and Undiscovered Country. There is a Targ on the bridge, and there is a barrel of blood wine in the wreckage. Folks, I loved this episode, just in case I was in some way unclear about that. Thank you so much for watching along. We are back, to quote some Romulans of the past. Let us know what you thought, and let us know what you're most excited for in season 4 of Lower Decks. Thank you so much to Chris for who's had to go through this and make some sort of video out of my ramblings. Thankfully, I do like to keep life as easy for him as possible. Can you hear him crying from here? Folks, remember you can follow us over on Twitter at TrekCulture. You can follow us on Instagram at TrekCultureYT. I'm at Sean Ferrick on Twitter, and you can follow Chris at ChrisEdit on both Twitter and Instagram. Until I see you again, make sure that you live long and prosper. Make sure that you look after yourselves, look after your friends and family. To our friends in Ukraine, Slava Ukrainia, everyone, I'm going to see you tomorrow. Let's just be real. We're going to be back for the second episode of Lower Decks. You keep yourself safe. Make it so. Thanks very much.